Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of That's Good Crack Lockdown Special. I'm joined with Mick and Danny. What's the crack, lads?
What's the crack, man? Are you well?
Danny.
After 5 takes, I eventually got that one.
It was the best take, though, man. The best take.
All over it.
This lockdown shit got my head melted. It's all good. It's all good. We're very happy to have with us today Patrick Connaughton. Patrick is a drugs outreach worker from the Carlow Kilkenny area. He's working on the front line of drug addiction and so on. And we just thought it would be very good to have Patrick on, considering the current situation. And from reports, what we've read about the rise of addictions and so on during lockdown. Patrick, what's the crack? How you doing, man?
Colin. Thanks for that lovely fine coffee and the fine bone china. It was great stuff.
Did you enjoy the green room?
I did. It was lovely. The cup made the coffee, though, was the nicest part of it.
Brilliant. And listen, don't worry about the pill, man. We got you covered. It's grand. So how's things, Patrick? How are you getting on?
Yeah, good, Colin, good. Different times for everybody, isn't it? It's a lot of unknown. But
it's a strange one, all right, you know?
We have to make do with what we can do, isn't it? One of the things I'm finding really hard with this whole thing is aside from work, I'm doing a level 7 in drug and alcohol studies through UL. And I was going to college every Wednesday, but now I was online, and no disrespect to the lecturers, they've no idea around technology, and it's just it's the most horrible thing I've ever done, trying to learn online, looking at PowerPoints, listening to someone read them out, and you can't even see the person, you're just looking at the slides and stuff. So everyone's adapting, like in work obviously as well, but even in life, it's really tough for everybody, isn't it? And we, as I say, we just can do what we can do with it. Anyway, I'm digressing, but that's just, yeah.
No, listen, that's what we're here for. Just unload. It's all good, man. It's all good. But so how are you finding work-wise? Do you want to explain to people what it is you do? Because I gave you, I didn't really describe exactly what it is that you've done in our brief intro.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I said I'd leave it to you.
Grant. So I'm a drugs outreach worker covering Carlow Kilkenny. I've the whole of Carlow, the whole of Kilkenny, which I think is about 84 miles from border to border. So it's a good big area to do. I'm doing it. I'll be 11 years in the job in next month, which I never thought when I started I would be 11 years in it. I've always done maybe 3 years, 4 years in a job. I have to say I love it, and I wouldn't be still doing it if I wasn't happy in it every day. And the variety of it is, I suppose, it's a lot different. My main job description is, it's changed a lot, but the main, I suppose, is to engage hard to reach drug users and try and link them in with services. Now there's some people I'm working with for over 10 years who have never gone further than me, and I'm literally doing brief interventions and harm reduction with them as I go along. And some people just aren't ready to change, don't want to change, and that's fine too. You take the person where they're at. But I suppose for me, it's trying to engage people and working with them, I suppose, just planting seeds the whole time. I can think of somebody I worked for 7 years, and every time I met them, I was planting seeds. And now they're coming up to 2 years completely in recovery, and they're doing absolutely phenomenally well.
Amazing.
If I always say to this person, if I could bottle them and sell them, I would, because they just have recovery down to a T at the moment. But I suppose I don't really work with the people in the recovery side of it. I'm more the active side of it. So a lot of my work is advice and support, advocacy. There's a homeless action team here in Carlow. I sit on that. So I'd be bringing all the lads I work with into that and trying to advocate around housing and stuff on their behalf. Or I'm based in St. Vincent de Paul, the Monastery Hostel. So I've that homeless connection there as well. I'm funded by the Drugs Task Force, and then St. Vincent de Paul employ me with that money from the task force. What advocacy, brief intervention. So motivational interviewing, a little bit of CBT, that kind of stuff you're doing with people. But I suppose a lot of people who aren't ready to change, they don't want to be listening to that talk really at the end of the day. It's just like, I suppose if someone's linking in with me, depends where they're at, but if someone at the very start is linking in with me, it might literally be just for a needle exchange and they go on their way again. But you do get to build a relationship with people. And I think I'm really, really lucky that I work for a voluntary sector in Vincent de Paul, because I'm very flexible in where I can go. As in, I meet a lot of people in coffee shops, you know, if someone wanted to go for a walk, whatever else. Whereas if I was tied to maybe public sector, I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd have to kind of meet them in an office and stuff like that. And that gives me a real in when I'm working with people. And I love that. And like, I suppose for the most part, I do have a really good professional relationship with all my service users. And I think that's, if you get to know somebody, you know what works for them. And I think that's how you start that whole change process then. I know I'm waffling on here now, sorry. What, like, I suppose a lot of my work is just, it's, yeah, I said it, like, it's getting to know the person, getting them to think about making changes. And then when they're ready to make changes, I know every service that's out there and I can say, right, this is what we have, this is what we can work towards, this is the steps we need to do. I'll refer you here, I'll signpost you here, whatever it is. And most people will kind of go along with what I say because they have that relationship with me. So if I say to someone, I'm going to suggest, I don't know, we'll just say St. Francis Farm in Tullow, I'm not going to say it just for the sake of it, because I think it would be a good, be a good fit. So I try and line them up with that. Because different treatments work for different people. It's the same as peer support. You know, NA works for some people, whereas some people like Smart Recovery. There's different programs work for different people. And you know what? I don't care. Once it works for you and that's what you get out of it, it's brilliant, you know.
Well, I liked your approach. You know, I was saying to you just before we come on there that I don't know how we became friends on Facebook, you know, but I just remembered seeing some statuses that you'd put up and thinking, "Guy, this guy's a breath of fresh air when it comes." I remember you'd always post about if there's bad batches of drugs going around, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen that multiple times. I mean, that must be helpful to people. It must be like, that must be a big, big help, you know. And the reason why I was drawn to you, because I never seen anyone being so open about that kind of stuff before, you know.
Yeah.
Because you talk about heroin, like you'd even talk,
Yeah.
you know, there's a bad batch of there's fentanyl or something, and you know, I've seen those loads of times. Like, fair play to that guy, like, you know what I mean. There's not many people that have will do that, you know.
I'm lucky again, as I say, because I work with St. Vincent de Paul. I'm allowed to have a Facebook page. I'm allowed to do that. If I was public service, I wouldn't be allowed to do that.
Brilliant.
So I'm very lucky in that sense. But I'll give you a good one. In 2010, unfortunately, there was a lot of heroin drought and there was a lot of overdoses afterwards. But around that time, I was doing a huge amount of harm reduction with people, trying to get them to smoke it, test it, because I hadn't used in a long time. And RT Radio contacted me to do an interview because I was the only outreach worker in the area at the time. So I come on and I did it. And the Irish Times did an article that weekend, the radio moment of the week. Drug user tells people how to use heroin on national radio, you know. And it was just like, yeah, it was funny. But it wasn't the message, obviously, at all.
No, it was just a pure clickbait that was just pulled from it over the bigger picture, you know. I mean, but people are going to do it anyway. I mean, if you can help it safely guide people without them killing themselves and so on. Like, but I do remember that time you spoke about in 2010, people that I know would have been on hard drugs for years. All of a sudden, everyone was looking fresh.
Yeah,
they were like, people were looking fresh, you know. for
a lot of people detox through vodka at that stage. So there you go. Now there's a new method for people to detox.
Jesus.
No, but I'm not recommending that, obviously. But no, people did. They did at that stage, and yeah, I know some people who are still off it. Actually, still they might have went dabbled in other stuff, but they stayed off it, off heroin and that time. So yeah, it's good. We're kind of around that again now because I suppose there is a bit of a shortage of stuff around again at the moment, and people are being fast tracked onto methadone clinics. And if people want it, they'll be on in about a week at the moment. I'm doing a lot of assessments with people for that. I've been kind of drawn voluntarily into the HSE at the moment, and I'm working along the methadone clinic on Tuesdays and Fridays in Carlow. Not my ideal work at all, but I'm helping out because they're really stuck at the moment. And yeah, I suppose people are getting in really fast. I would have never got into it. Like, people would have waited 9 months at times before to go on to methadone. So it's good like that. And I suppose a lot of people have different views on methadone and stuff. If people use it right, it gives people a chance to stabilize and get their life back on track. And then if they don't, look, that's up to them at the end of the day, what they want to do with it. But to be given that opportunity, I think everybody should have that opportunity. And then where to go with that, they should, I suppose, hopefully do the right thing with it. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't. They keep using on top of it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I suppose a couple of things there. Yeah, it's amazing. Like we had, I can never think of a second name. Nuno was the guy's name, and he's Nuno
Kappas.
Sorry, and he was involved in bringing in the decriminalising of drugs in
Portugal. Yeah,
and talking about a lot, like, you know what I mean, and it was brought in. It was just done so well. Like, they asked the experts, what's the best way we could address this, and they were saying decriminalise it, and, you know, make it easy access to low doses of methadone, so it'll drop crime, but at the same time, give them access to healthcare and give them access to treatment. So if people want to get help, you're fast tracked into like treatment centers, all this type of thing, and it was a massive success. Like, and I suppose, like, you know what I mean, because we don't have anything like that in Ireland, it's far from it. Anything that we do have is even underfunded. So we bring in pieces of things, like we bring in needle exchanges, and we bring in, like, you know, people, like all I can remember now was, say, around the time when I would have come into recovery, in my hometown, there was like 50 places on the methadone clinic, and there was a year's waiting list.
Right.
And like outside of Dublin, for a long time, they even wrote a book about it back in the 80s, because of the prison in town here. It was the second highest percentage of heroin use in the country.
Yeah.
And with that, you know what I mean, that's the type, and no one had ever gotten clean off it. Like I actually talked to people who worked in the clinic, and they were saying like no one had actually gotten clean off of it, like, you know what I mean? And but there was a year's waiting list. But that with this change in circumstances, immediately they could bring in that people could get quickly onto and it's like none of these things, in my belief, I don't know how you feel about it, none of this is a cure-all. There isn't any model that is going to fit everyone, you know, and but it's just that, like, none of them are, like, you know what I mean, completely successful. None of them are completely they're not funded properly. There's not any of these type of things is done right. So some people, 12-step recovery is what works for them. Other people, that's not going to work for them. They're not going to be interested in that, you know what I mean? And the harm reduction model doesn't work for some people, because they can't control it in that way, you know what I mean, whatever it may be. But I think any of them, if it was like the Portugal model, where it was actually fully adhered to and addressed, you know what I mean, where they just funded it properly, you would actually see the results then. Do you get frustrated with that? Do you get frustrated with the lack of resources or the lack of will to actually approach the problem?
I do, without a doubt. You talk about the decriminalisation. I know here in Ireland now, so if you're caught with a small personal amount, you're given a caution, you're letting your way for the first offence. That's happening now, and that seems to be working well. But what defines then a personal amount, it depends on the guard and stuff. So you might have 20 spot of hash on you, and I might have, I don't know, a gram of coke. What's personal at the end of the day? Do you know? That's one thing that's up for debate. But then, like you were talking about Portugal, so they had the resources there. There's no resources for that. People come into me, people are getting referred from the courts left, right and centre to do an alcohol education program or something. I don't do those now, but say Ardú, the substance misuse service, does. And they're getting referred into those places. But then there was supposed to be a dedicated worker for everywhere in the country, for each region, to deal with all these referrals coming from the court. I think it was going to cost 87,000 for each region for this worker, which isn't a lot of money at the end of the day if it's going to, I suppose, get people on the road to recovery. But it didn't happen. So people are being given cautions. They're being sent into the services for help or whatever else, even though they might want to go, but they're still being sent in because it's better than, you know, custody or whatever. But the resources aren't there. So it's really frustrating from that point of view, Mick, definitely. The other thing I suppose I see is, like, there's so many treatment beds empty there now, currently with the COVID-19 crisis. Surely you could imagine there'd be some way to work it, that they could take people in small amounts. But apart from Asherie, it's not happening.
No, but that's what I mean. In Asherie, though, Patrick, it is, so it's obvious they could do it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Well, actually, Francis Farm is starting again now. I was talking to them over the week. But I've got people waiting to go into the Lantern. It's the only cannabis detox in the country. And I've got two people waiting to go in there at the moment. One of them is waiting since last October, and the other one's waiting since early this year. And there's just no movement on it whatsoever. And both of those people have tried to stop in the community and just haven't been able to. So the beds are closed, like it's just not open up there.
Patrick, could I just stop you there? And just interesting, we brought up as well, like, because it is this thing that people don't realize, like, you know what I mean? And I think especially now, you've been around long enough to have seen the change in the actual substance itself, like cannabis,
Yeah.
that there's like, we've shared, like, you know, I mean, try to put it out there that it's not like it was a few years back. The people who are making it have changed it now, where it's like the THC level, or the CBD level has been taken out of it, the CBD side of it, which is the part that levels in your mind. It makes it more accessible.
It's the antipsychotic,
Exactly, antipsychotic, sorry. And the THC, which is the psychoactive part of it, has, like, you know what I mean, it's extreme. So a lot of people, like, I live close to a mental health facility, and it's full of young people and not so young people who our minds are like really, really destroyed from it, you know what I mean? And could you just share, have you seen a difference in how it's affecting people?
Definitely I have, and like you mentioned, I've worked with a lot of young people over the years, a couple of them who've never recovered. They've got drug-induced psychosis from it, and I suppose I'm thinking of someone I've been careful, obviously I don't give it away, but this person I use as an example regularly, because he knows I do write to people, but he was casual enough weed smoker. That was his thing. He got a really strong batch one time, a good few years ago now. Anyway, and I called up to see him, and he was hallucinating. He was seeing aliens. It was the worst thing. It was one of the most frightening things I ever saw. And anyway, so we had to get the ambulance, and he was admitted into psychiatry for a few weeks at the time, and he's never recovered from that. But they reckon that the cannabis at that time was sprayed with amphetamines, because amphetamines showed up in a sample, but he didn't take amphetamines. That wasn't his drug of choice. And they reckon that was one of the things. So, right, you get stronger stuff, but also you don't know what it's sprayed with. In Wexford, there was heroin sprayed on the cannabis at one stage. The heroin dealers were trying to get people hooked in that way when they were having withdrawals from it. People are, they're spraying it or whatever to weight it up as well. You don't know what it is. And then, so just obviously the harm from that. And then, as you say, the strength of it, they're reducing the CBD, they're increasing the THC. And then, they're really, I suppose young people think it's harmless, and they think, oh, it's only a joint or whatever else. But for many people, I'm not going to use that word gateway drug, but it's very hard to come back from it, because I suppose there's a huge anger when people are trying to withdraw from it as well, which I didn't see. It's only in the last maybe 2 or 3 years I'm seeing that a lot of young people. Before I wasn't seeing that. People were able to stop it, have a few joints, leave it off, whatever else. But now that's why that cannabis detox is there in the Lantern, because people can't come off in the community. And it's just, it's crazy.
That's a really good point. It's the aggression, Patrick, that comes, like, it's not the same drug. This thing where all those rap songs from back in our day, like about, like, coming from the earth and all that type of stuff, it doesn't, it's not, it's totally altered. It's a manufactured drug. It's not like, something that some guy has grown in his window. It's completely manufactured to be super strong. And in that, what they've done, they've made it really harsh on your mental health. Like, just for people just to think it's not the same thing. It's, as
but
far
the
as
the THC levels now are 40-50%. I've seen some stuff, like things on the internet showing. Like, I'd say when I was smoking like hash when I was younger, I'd say the THC levels were probably 12-13%, and that was still leaving people in the mental hospital. Do you know what I mean? And now you're talking about taking the CBD out of it and actually upping the THC levels. It's a genetically modified plant. It is like,
but you look at any time people put stuff up on Facebook or young people share, it's all positive around it. You never see people saying, I had this from it, I had that. And it's like, oh, what do they know? Or, even I say it to people sometimes. And in fairness, a lot of people who come to me with cannabis pops, I've seen an awful lot recently, are saying, why did I ever start it? I can't get off this stuff. I need help with it. And you try and do a planned kind of regime with them. I think I do with them anyway, to try and get people off it. But very few people are able to successfully do it and stay off it. And
it's expensive now. It's not like years ago. It's expensive to get addicted to marijuana, like to weed.
50 quid 2 grams, thereabouts.
Some people can smoke way more than that in a day, like, hundreds of euros
crazy.
every week, like, and then you could be on the dole, or like, what's the average wage in Ireland? It's not that much, so it brings all other kind of financial pressures into it. And
I had a young fella come to me, but his mom came to me to get him help. He just turned 18 and he had 13 grand worth of weed debts ran up in that time, when he was just 18. So and
it's easily done, and like, again, and not to be harping on about, but like, I've shared about some of my concerns. Say, for instance, like, when I see the Portugal model, I think it's fantastic. I think it's brilliant. It was so well executed, but my fear is how badly we execute things in this country, Patrick, you know what I mean? And it'd be half-arsed done. And like, I don't know how you feel about this, but you know, I go back to when the head shops came around, and that gave me a glimpse, I think, into decriminalising drugs, right, in
That's
Ireland.
crazy.
And it was like, for people who are listening, I know I've said it before, it was just they got these synthetic drugs, and it was kind of a legal loophole where they could make synthetic weed and synthetic cocaine and stuff like that.
Bath
And
salts,
bad
plant
salts, yeah.
food. Yeah.
And it was extremely harsh on people's mental health. And I know, but I seen there was a demographic of people who might dabble. They might be at a party, they could take a joint, they might be, you know, the odd time doing this or that. But when that came around, they were there every day. They were like going like into this shop, like, you mean, and lots of them lost businesses, lost their mental health, like, you mean, those. So if you decriminalize something, is what I'm saying, there's going to be a percentage of people who are on the brink, and you know, they were in the middle.
The fencing.
Yeah, there's going to fence. So there's going to be a spike in using. There is 100%. But my problem is if we decriminalize it and don't give the resources to help those people who, you know what I mean, that like have the mental breaks, that have, like, you know what I mean, the psychotic episodes, that have, if there's not the resources there for that, I just see it as being a counterproductive thing. You know what I mean? I see it that I would be all on for it if it was a wholehearted thing that they were going to apply properly. But I don't know what you think, but I just don't see it happening.
I suppose I have to be careful. I don't want to be negative the whole time, okay? But yeah, look, it's a lot of things that in this 11 years in this particular job I've seen started to throw a lot of money at, and all of a sudden, oh, we're just changing. We don't want to do that anymore. Same thing again. And unfortunately, I don't know whether it's just the powers that be. I suppose different ministers come along and they have great ideas, and then it stops all of a sudden. When Aon O'Riordan, the Labour guy, was there, he was the best of the lot. I thought, I have to say, over the years, really good ideas, but he didn't last long, and then he's gone. And then who we got? Catherine is the last one. I can't think of her second. Catherine Byrne. Yeah, look, I have to be careful, but like she's useless.
Don't be careful at all.
It's funny, like, because I remember I used to go to a treatment center, like, you know, part of a 12-step thing, you know, when I way back carrying a message, and it was beside Castlereagh Prison, Harristown House, and the amount of people I know today that are still off drinking drugs because of that house, and the success rate was phenomenal, the people involved with it, and then it just shut down. And you know, for me, it's one of the things I've noticed. Now I'm out of the country, must be 10 years now, so I'm not living in Ireland anymore, so I don't really know what's going on fully, but I do listen to the radio, and I and the late the lads have slag me about that.
He's a big fan.
Yeah, big fan. But but I watch or I listen to a lot of radio. And one of the things I was listening today that really kind of, and it struck me back to the Nuno Cava's interview, is there's this thing going on with relocation of asylum seekers in hotels and stuff. And one of the things I noticed was that it was like the press were trying to get hold of who was responsible, and the health the health department were sending them to law enforcement and back and forth, and they still couldn't get an answer from anyone. And that's one of the biggest things that, like Mick was talking about as well, is if they do want to change everything, you know, they really need to do what Portugal did and put it under one umbrella, responsible for everything, responsible for every part of the process that kind of looks after addiction. Like, you can't turn around and say, right, oh, well, you know, that's not our department, you need to go somewhere else for that. It needs to be all, you know, under one department. And I think that's, for me, you know, that's why the Portuguese model works as well.
It's accountability. It doesn't happen in Ireland. That's 100%. Just it. And you know, I think things are only going to get worse though, because there's going to be no money after this. So the addiction services, they're not going to get any more funding.
Scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is scary.
Well, it's short-sighted as well, lads. It's really, for me, it's very short-sighted. Like, to put someone in prison for a long, okay, if they make the prisons private, they make more money off the prisons. But to put someone in prison, it costs more, you know, per day than putting them in a treatment center and helping an addict change their lives and put them back in, put people like myself back in the system, as opposed to putting them in prison. That's my opinion. You know what I mean? I think it's really, really important, like, for the government to kind of look at things differently and look you know, for the, you know, because they're going to save more money if they go the other way, in my opinion. That's just, you know, that's me going on a rant.
Maybe you can come back then and convince them, because it's not going to happen
That's it.
anytime
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah,
But
it's
the
just
other-
disappointing when you see that, you know.
The other side of it is there is a lot of really, really good services in
Yeah.
Ireland as well. There's a lot of good services, like just off the top of my head, even Solja in Dublin. The amount of people I know that have went through Solja and come out and are still doing well.
Yeah.
You know, so there is like, but the problem with drug addiction, especially, is that it really, really takes a lot of effort to get clean from drug addiction. You know, it takes a lot of work. And the problem is, it's like people might even get 80% of the way where they're kind of doing all right, you know. But I've seen it so many times over the years where you'd see people who are doing well and they look healthy, and then all of a sudden you see them on the street or something like that back again, or, you know. But I have found over the years there is a lot of really good services. But even I remember, like when I kind of gave up drugs and alcohol first, like the drug task force in Dublin, they were great at one stage. The drug task force in Ireland were really good at one stage during the Celtic Tiger. Now they were throwing money at everything. There was lads going down and getting laptops off them. For what, like, you know what I mean? But they were good. We're paying for people's colleges, their courses. They did try it, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But let's say it comes down to a lot of funding, like the amount of debt that Ireland's in as well. Like, we are in a human amount of debt.
Yeah,
And then
I don't even want to think about it.
I know. And then after this, Mick gave me a statistic before, did you, make about how much money we're born into debt? Was it you that said that to me before?
Yeah, I may have, like the banking debt we ended up in 2008 and stuff, but like, it's monopoly money levels. Like, I mean, you can't, it's not even real, like, you know what I mean? It's just numbers on a screen. Like, I mean, it's some dude has decided we owe them. But like, on a positive note, Patrick, like, I mean, obviously, like, we've seen like the tough side of addiction. We have seen many people pass away from it. We have seen many families destroyed from it. But also we have seen, I know personally, an awful lot of people who have come through it, an awful lot of people, including myself, who have gotten drug and alcohol free, and you know what I mean, have moved on and are having a very, very positive life for themselves, you know. And when you're saying that, like, you're 11 years doing this, I know people who are involved in the addiction services, like of any type, and you know, some of them are in a long time and doing great. Other people become very jaded very quickly from it. And could you just maybe explain to us, like, you know what I mean, when you say that, you know, that you're still 11 years on, you're happy to be doing it and things like that, and I suppose one person could say that, and it could be just because they're hardened to it. I've seen people in that situation. You don't come across as that type of guy. You seem to be a person that's getting an awful lot for your spirit out of it. Like, could you just explain maybe what is that? What are you getting from it, and what have you seen that just keeps you coming back to the job?
Yeah, I suppose, look, I'm a people person, that comes across, I think, with everybody I work with. And I treat, no matter who comes through the door, I treat them the same, with the same respect. That's just how I work. I would never discriminate against anybody. Like, I'm not about race, but just, I suppose, I treat everybody with respect, and I think that comes across hugely. And because I treat people with respect, I get that respect back. And I have a really, really, I said it already, a really, really good relationship with people that I work with, who I know. Some people just come in and come out again, and that's grand. But any of the guys that are around a long time, or keep people, I had somebody there relapse after 7 years when this whole thing started, and the first person that picked up the phone to was me. Now, I know that's a long time, whatever else, but I suppose they knew that they could, I suppose, trust me to have that conversation, that they felt safe talking to me about it, and that we could try and put a plan into place. So I suppose because I have that trust or whatever else, it works both ways. And I think I feel valued, I suppose, by a lot of the service users that I work with, because I suppose I know that, like, I don't know what way I want to put it now, but I just think the relationship is really is paramount, and I think it works both ways, as I'm saying. I don't know if that's answering you, Mick, but I suppose every day is a challenge, and I always, like, even though somebody new might come through the door and they might have the same problem as the last 15 people that came through the door, I'll still try and do something different with that person if they want something different, you know. And I'll tailor everyone's plan differently and try and work with everyone different. Whereas my approach is the same, but maybe the strategies or whatever mightn't be the same in that sense, you know. I'm not answering exactly where you want it, but I don't know what way to word it, Mick, to be honest.
Yeah, but I get it's your interpersonal relationships with the
Yeah.
people you're dealing with, and I suppose you've come to terms with the fact, like I mean, that not everyone is going to get completely drug and alcohol free, and
No.
just to see that you're improving someone's life, they must be getting something from you if they're coming back for 11 years, you know, or 10
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, I had unfortunately a lady died that I worked with for 10 years there a couple of weeks ago, and like that, I know people say you shouldn't get attached to whatever else, but there is an attachment there as well sometimes, and it's
Well, you're
professional.
human,
Don't
you know.
it is just it is professional. It's not like anything other, you know. But Jesus, I was really caught up with that now, and I have professional supervision, and my professional supervisor is absolutely amazing. She really is. And I phoned her up after it, and we had a really good chat. And yeah, I was, you know, I suppose people do become hardened, and sometimes when people die and I don't know them that well, I say, you know, it's part of it, whatever else. But then some people you know really well, and it cuts you up inside, and yeah, maybe I'm letting down a side of me that people don't normally see, a kind of softer side. But um, yeah, look, I suppose it still does get to you anyway after all this time.
Yeah, you're human, definitely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Just go on.
go
Do,
ahead,
do
go
you
Just
get
saying
it?
that.
Sorry, Colin. Far away.
Just on another, on like a more like as in today type thing, you know, with the lockdown thing and the whole situation. It said there's a shortage of drugs and that kind of thing. How like are you getting more phone calls? I know you have you publicly put your mobile phone number out there all the time. Have you seen an increased spike in people trying to get in touch with you, first time people, maybe even new users or new people that you've
I,
never met before?
I've had, I think since this started, probably 3, maybe 4 completely brand new people. Yeah, maybe I think 4. But I've had a good few people who've worked it before coming back around again that I wouldn't have maybe had contact with in a while. Some of them even said that one guy was 7 years. There was another person who was about 2 years, who were going back around again. So not, I suppose, I don't know if people like are actually. I think a lot of people are becoming very set in their ways with this, and they're just, if they're isolating at home, whatever else, they're doing what they're doing, and if they can get what they want, then they're kind of just sitting with it. But I think when this is all over, the phone is not going to stop. Now, it's really busy. I'm not saying it's not, but there's not huge numbers of new people coming through. And as I said, I'm working with the Metro Clinic as well. So that's 2 days in a week now gone, kind of, that I was working with service users and stuff.
That's proper frontline stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it
You know
is.
what I mean?
I don't know if anyone has seen, I shared it on Facebook, but there's lots of new online supports after coming on board there this week actually was the first week of them. There's a new, so we have an open access service that runs in Carlow Kilkenny normally, but now that's online Monday to Friday 9 to 5. They send me a text or they send another worker a text, and we'll phone them up or we'll go on Zoom with them or whatever else, and we'll have a chat and we'll refer them to wherever they need to be referred, that kind of thing. So that's a really, really positive thing. But there's online meditation every day. There's different recovery check-ins. There's support for people on methadone programs, and it's all online and it's all free, and people can touch in and out as they want, and it's absolutely brilliant. And I suppose this is one good thing that's come up from this, because I think these supports will stay around after this whole thing, whereas I suppose they wouldn't have been there, because like AANA, you're all aware, is online everywhere. I have people regularly and they go to meetings in America just for the sake of it now, because they can go for it, you know, and they like something different, and they're going,
Cool,
yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty cool, yeah. And someone I was talking to today, they said, oh, I went to a meeting in LA. I was like, oh, what was that like? You know, we were just chatting about it or whatever. But yeah, the option was there, and it's great. That wasn't there really beforehand. So this has opened up new doors, and I think it is going to change the way I work and the way a lot of people at the addiction services work after this. Yeah, but I suppose in terms of new numbers, Colin, no, it's kind of not huge at the moment, but I do think it's going to go massive at the end of this. I really do.
Yeah, and I think like we'll get the information off you, Patrick, and put it in with the description and stuff for people. And we put out before that, like, you know, people to contact drugs.ie, can be a lot of services on that for them as well and stuff. And you know, that there are supports there 100%. But Colin, I know you also can direct family members of people who are like, you know, I mean, whatever you want to say, an addiction or substance misuse or whatever. But like, for like, what are the supports like for family members of addicts?
There's there's a family support network here in Carlow and in Kilkenny, and there's a group that meets weekly. Now, they're not meeting at the moment, obviously, but I just got an email today. They're having the meetings online once a week now. So if there is a family member who wants details on that, they can contact the family support network. It's just Google it, the number is on it online. Or if they contact me, I'll point them in the direction of it as well. And they're meeting online. I think it's once in Kilkenny and once in Carlow a week, just for people who want it. So there is lots of support. Ardú, the substance misuse services, they do a 5-step program. It's called a STAR, I think, with people, concerned people and family members. And it's about, I suppose it's about them taking a lot of family members maybe enable service users, or they might I suppose blame themselves for the addiction and stuff like that. So it's about them putting maybe the responsibility back on the service user. That program, I suppose, taking the blame away from them. It's a really good program. I haven't done it now, but I know lots of people have, and they found it really good. So yeah, there's lots of supports.
Because that is a massive thing, isn't it, for family members? People don't get, like, you know what I mean? Because your natural instinct for a family member is to protect them and to care for them. And, you know, when you see them distressed, is like, I just need to take away that distress. And, you know, that, like, oftentimes when it gets to a point where, you know, people are having, like, addiction problems, oftentimes it is like you're keeping them from the reality of their addiction. You're actually prolonging it because you're enabling them to keep going, kind of thing. You know, it's a tough one. I've seen it with people, like, where, you know, they've just, you know, I'm not trying to say this is across the, but it's a regular thing that if someone in addiction can end up, how would you say, taking advantage of that goodwill. You know what I mean? It's only the natural instinct of someone if they want to get something to use or do whatever, you know what I mean, that it can happen. And it'd be very hurtful for people, and really they don't get, like, it's from the family side of things, it's like it's tough to see someone you like going down that road, and but just even for people to learn about that, like, you know, the most loving things sometimes you can do to somebody is just be honest about them and not enabling them to keep going, to not give them the money, to not do those things, you know what I mean?
Well, I suppose I've had this conversation with, I'd say, hundreds of parents over the years, but really at the end of the day, no matter what advice you give, generally they'll still go back for most part, and because it's their son or daughter and they don't want to see them come into any harm. And at least if they're in their house, they know that they're safe. You know, and that's a big thing for a lot of parents. Plus, I do naloxone training with people. So naloxone is the drug that's given to people when they overdose from opiates, and a lot of parents have that in the house now too. So if their Johnny or Mary uses in the house and they know that they're after injecting or whatever else, they have naloxone there and they can administer it if needed. And
that's some heavy stuff, man. That's some heavy stuff.
An injection?
Yeah, it's an injection.
What, like Pulp Fiction?
Yeah,
but that's adrenaline and Pulp Fiction now. This is just.
Do you have to go down through the breastplate?
No. This is just into the. Thankfully, this is just into.
That is fucking. That was some heavy shit. I would not be able to do that to someone. I'm sorry. Just straight down to the chest.
It's just into the leg now, Colin. That's where it is. Into the muscle in the leg.
I could do it. I could probably
do that one, Colin.
There's an intranasal one, which literally just squirt at their nose, but we're not allowed to recommend that at the moment because of COVID-19. But when that is over, hopefully.
What does that do? Just it shuts down the opioid receptors, is it?
Basically, it smashes the opioid receptors. It's like a person never used, and they go into withdrawals in a lot of cases. But it's short acting, and people don't realize that it only can last 20 minutes. I know a guy once, he injected in the library in Carlow. Overdose. The ambulance came. He refused to go in the ambulance, and by the time he'd walked around to a taxi rank around the corner, he'd overdosed again, and the same ambulance crew had to go back out to him, and he didn't use any more in between. So yeah, that's
heavy, you know.
Yeah, it is, but it's a brilliant drug, and as I go back to the families, for so many families, it's a lifesaver. It really is to have it there.
Well, it's a strange one because I think it just shuts down the respiratory system, doesn't it? Like it just shuts down the.
Well, using the heroin, using the heroin does, yeah. And I suppose then people to slow right down, and then they might obviously struggle to breathe, and that's how they end up, going into overdose then, and then their heart could stop as well. So, but what I do is it's kind of a 20-minute program with service users where I teach them how to use naloxone. We teach them basic CPR, we teach them mouth to mouth, teach them how to recognize the signs of overdose, and how to administer it, as I say. And then I do training with staff, which is about 3 hours, and it's about recognizing overdose just doing some harm reduction with service users, and then trying to get them to, or trying to, how they administer naloxone if they have to administer it. There's a kind of a little sticky point at the moment in that naloxone is not given out to people apart from who are on methadone. That's the only people who can get it. It's prescribed by the methadone doctors, but a service user can get 10 of them if they want to. So if they want to give them to somebody to mine for them, they can do that.
We've come a long way, I think, you know. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Meg. I think in certain ways we've come a long way with that kind of thing. Like, I'm listening to all these different things, like the amount of work that you're doing for people in terms of education around drugs. Like, just in 15 years, or I suppose the drugs has exploded more, but even when it came around first, like the explosion outside of Dublin, there was an explosion maybe 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, you know. But from the sounds of it, like, you know, I'm kind of disconnected from what you're doing. I have no idea about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it sounds like we've come a long, long way in that sense. I know Mick will say, no, there's lots to do, and I agree, you know. But
yeah, heroin is definitely in decline. Well, it was. I don't know about this year, but it seems to be on the up again. But it was in decline. But crack cocaine, that's just massive everywhere at the moment. And yeah, people are just going through shitloads of it.
That scares the shit on me, just from watching stuff about documentaries in America and stuff, you know what I mean? That and meth and stuff like that, it scares the shit on me.
We don't have much meth in Ireland yet, thankfully. Yeah.
One thing that kind of stands out for me, Patrick, is, you know, the lads know you already, and you know, they've talked to you before. I can certainly sense you have a passion for what you do and a love for what you do, and kind of the thing that I can see, and I was wondering, is it something that you would get a lot as sort of spiritual fulfillment when you actually see someone changing because of the work you've helped them with, you know, put them in the right direction, or, you know, showed them, you know. And I liked what you said, you know, and I think we've talked about it before here as well, is the opposite to addiction is connection. And it sounds like when someone comes to you, you try and connect with them. And do you get a kind of a sense of spiritual fulfillment when you see someone change, or their lives change because of the help that you've given? You know?
Most definitely. And I suppose I said earlier, I work with mostly active people, so I don't see a lot of people in recovery. A lot of people I work with, I refer them on to services, and I might never hear from them again. In fairness though, anyone that I'd know well would kind of touch base with you every now and then and just let you know they're doing well. But yeah, if I see somebody like that person I mentioned earlier on, who I worked with for nearly 7 years, I know they're just coming up on 2 years clean, that really makes my job. And I could probably count 20 people in 10 years that got that good recovery, you know. But those people are the ones, those few successes are the things that make this job. It really is. But about keeping people alive as well, just doing harm reduction with people, and, you know, a lot of my work is really practical. It's really simple, and just reminding people, don't be fucking stupid, you know, don't do that, whatever. And I think that gives me huge satisfaction if I know that people aren't killing themselves because I'm able to give them the practical advice just to keep themselves going. I'm never going to tell somebody to stop using drugs. That's not my job to do that. If they want to stop, then I'll help them 110%. But when they're doing it, let them do it as safely as possible, and it's my job to help them with that.
Super.
Well, I think you're doing great work. You know, I think we probably, from what I'm taking away from the whole thing, is that, you know, it just needs more people doing it. More people doing that kind of work that you're doing. Would you agree, or do you think?
There's another outreach worker in Carlow who works with the HSC. He's come on in recent times, Richard, and then in Kilkenny there's a half an outreach worker, Mel, and I suppose
half an outreach worker.
Yeah, it's I won't go into, but long as I was on my own for nearly 6-7 years as an outreach worker. I was taken on in 2009, which was at the recession, which was kind of weird. But anyway, I was taken on, and I was the only one for about 6 years, and I just physically couldn't do what I was doing anymore. I just couldn't. So the HSC recognised that, so they took on. They had people of youth work organisations, CBDI workers, drugs initiative workers, and they made them half outreach posts. So one of them still half outreach, and the other one's full outreach now. Doesn't make sense, I know, but
yeah. Well, I suppose if there's anything, you know, I mean, to maybe try and put across to our listeners, is that, like, you know, there's going to be there's going to be tough times after this lockdown. You know, there's going to be a lot of people that have gotten into a lot deeper trouble. Like, and I suppose just trying to change the narrative about it, that it's not about letting people off the hook. You know what I mean? If you feel like they should be punished or anything like this, it's about, like, say, on a practical level for society, that helping people, like, you know what I mean, helping people in whatever way you can. It's actually productive. Like, you know what I mean? It's less strain. If you give people clean syringes, you lower HIV rates, you lower hepatitis C rates. Those are very expensive diseases to treat, you know. So if you just want to talk about practical level, like, you know what I mean, if you're like, by what help you give them, it's actually, it has a knock-on effect, like was proven in Portugal, that like having these addressing things in this way, ultimately you're giving more services, but ultimately the effect saves money, because all these things, putting people in jail, the policing of this stuff, the massive like health risks and problems that come from it, like these things, like it's not an abstract thing, it's like a practical thing of like, this will save massive money. And rather than, maybe if we just lean more into these positive things when we come out with this, like, you know what I mean, and be a bit more radical about how we're approaching it, you know, and really address it wholeheartedly, ultimately it's going to save money if you wanted to look at it that way. You know what I mean? That, you know, there's going to be cutbacks. There's going to be serious cutbacks. Do I believe it's going to happen? I don't know, but like, you know what I mean? At least we're having the conversations, Patrick, and thanks for coming on, for, you know, informing us more. I learned a lot more. That thing, I'm not going to lie, that thing, even though it's a very helpful thing for families to have that injection in the house, to be honest with you, Patrick, it's after hitting me, man. It's after hitting me, like, you know what I mean, that brings it really into focus for me, like, about what's the hidden stuff that's going on around addiction and what families have to deal with, because there's not the proper services there to help people. And it's like, you know, these parents like raised those children, gave birth to those children, like saw them coming up as a child, knows things about them that other people doesn't, you know what I mean, and has seen them going down this road, you know what I mean, and all that's ever going to be in the instinct is to help them, like, you know what I mean. But that's fucking tough stuff, man. So I suppose just to think about it, I mean, that whatever help, for whatever way it brings people around to the fact of helping people who are caught up in addiction, you know, it's not just the addict, you know what I mean. This is this affects society massively, it affects families massively, you know, there's a lot of people involved, you know. And just to kind of, I don't know what you call it, it was enlightening. It definitely was enlightening, Patrick. That, like, I'm not going to lie, that's hit me, man, you know what I mean, to think of that, you know what I mean, that, you know, a parent has to be sitting there with that. I know it's going to save the life ultimately, but just to think that they're sitting there waiting for that to happen is a tough one, you know.
Yeah, on edge, I suppose, the whole time. Just a really quick thing there. It's 50 grand per hepatitis C treatment. So there you go.
Yeah.
Wow. It's like, I do see, you know, this is strange. Like, I'm watching American TV sometimes, like movie channels and stuff like that, you know, and they have ads for hepatitis C medication.
Have they?
It's crazy. Like,
I've never seen it.
Like, they have, like, you know, like ads, it's just a tablet now or something that they said. To be honest, I was shocked by it. Like, American TV, most of the ads are health insurance or medication.
Yeah.
Like, they have antidepressant medication as ads on TV. Like, I just don't understand. Maybe growing up in Ireland, I never seen anything like that. I could be wrong. I haven't watched TV in about 10 years, so I'm probably out of loop altogether.
I've never seen that, no.
They have ads for hepatitis C medication on TV over there, you know. But yeah, like Mick was saying, really, I enjoyed talking on a local level with you. You know, it's good to know. It's good to know, and for people to know that there's people like you out there and doing it. And I always in my head, I think I'll end up working with you one day because I have some ideas.
Okay.
Yeah, I have some ideas, not around your work, but like around film or something, you know.
Okay.
Maybe in the future we could.
We'll chat. No problem at all.
About it.
Yeah,
I was loving it. It was great. Sorry. Go on.
Patrick, I'd like to say thanks for the work that you've done in the many years in your service, and for the people that you've helped. Personally, from myself, from someone who's been in a place of darkness, and you know, to have someone who actually cares, and I can see you care. I'd like to say thank you from myself for the work that you've done. And I'd also like to say, just on this note, is that if there is anyone out there suffering like honestly, in this time in lockdown or suffering with addiction, to reach out, or families reach out to anyone that can, you know, don't suffer in silence. You know what I mean? That's especially in this time, pick up a phone or look for a service that will help you. This is, you know, to be alone in this is really, really hard. And like Mick, you know, to follow what Mick was saying, that struck me, you know, to have that in the house, for a family member to have that in the house, you know. Yeah,
As an
thanks
option.
again.
Yeah.
It's really not nice, and not nice is a very light way of putting it. It's horrific, actually, you know. And yeah, I'd just like to say, if there's anyone out there suffering, genuinely reach out, you know. And thanks again, Patrick.
No, thanks for having me on, lads. It was a pleasure. It really was. It's great.
So thanks again for coming on, Patrick. Just if you want to let people know how they can get in touch with you, family members or people that need this service themselves.
Yeah, and I suppose facebook.com/drugs outreach worker will get me. If people can get me on Messenger, my mobile number is 08578888326. And I'm on everything that goes with that, the WhatsApps and all that stuff. So you can get me anyway. If you have no credit, people always have access to Wi-Fi. There's also, just I suppose, to let people know, there's Ardu as well, the substance misuse service at the HSE. Just if they want, the number for that is 05677844638, and that's for Carlow and Kilkenny, that number.
We could probably put your information on our website too, couldn't we?
100%. I'll drop the links in on the website.
We'll put all the, just for people watching, we'll put all Patrick's contact details in the description of this video as well.
Lovely.
All right.
Great.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks,
care,
lads.
man.
Cheers.
Thanks, lads. Peace.
All right.
Got to listen to that good crack. Colin, Mick, and Danny.